What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Dylan Mathews back at it again with another hometown take. Today I'm talking about the Atlanta Falcons, and Mel Kiper has dropped his first mock draft of this 2022 upcoming NFL draft. And I'm going to tell you who he has the Falcons picking at number 8 and how I feel about it. But first, we got to handle some business. First things first, make sure you like this video, comment your thoughts, subscribe to the channel. Check out the first link in my description box to buy me a coffee to help fuel this channel, help fuel the Atlanta Falcons to a great draft. We need a lot of hits and no misses because we need a lot of help in a lot of different areas. So, buy me a coffee if you can. Also, check out the second link in my description box to subscribe to the Tough Cause podcast with me and girl SymoneWithTheSports, as she likes to say, or talking to your favorite former and current athletes, hosts, anchors, reporters, head coaches, all that good stuff. Listen to the pod, like the pod, download the pod, subscribe to the pod, share it out to your friends so they can do all the same things. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get right into it. Mel Kiper's mock draft 1.0 for the 2022 NFL draft is out, and can I get a drum roll, please? At number 8, he has the Falcons picking Derek Stingley Jr., 6'1", 195-pound cornerback out of LSU. Now, I will go ahead and tell you that, Daniel Jeremiah, he's an NFL media analyst, one of the big-time guys who scout, these college dudes coming up to the pros for the NFL. You always see his scouting reports on NFL.com. He has Derek Stingley Jr. Compared to Marshon Lattimore of the New Orleans Saints. That's obviously a very good comparison. Marshon Lattimore has been a very successful NFL player in his young career. But not only that, Daniel Jeremiah has LSU cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. as the second best cornerback in the draft overall. So in the whole NFL draft, with all the corners in this big old defensive draft we got, because it's a very heavy defensive draft this year, Derek Stingley Jr. is the number 2 overall cornerback, according to Daniel Jeremiah, right behind cornerback of Cincinnati, Ahmad Garner. So high praise from Daniel Jeremiah as well. The Draft Network has him compared to Stephon Gilmore, and that is obviously a person the Falcons could use going next to A.J. Terrell. So with Mel Kiper having Derek Stingley Jr. going to the Atlanta Falcons, I like it. We need another shutdown corner next to A.J. Terrell. Just think, guys, cornerbacks, A.J. Terrell, Derek Stingley Jr., and I know some people maybe are still a little bit stained from the past years of Isaiah Oliver, but he played very well this year in Dean Pease's system until he got hurt, especially in the slot, and we would have him in the slot still. A.J. Terrell's corner number 1, Derek Stingley Jr. corner number 2, and Isaiah Oliver in the slot. That backfield will be looking a whole lot better. We would just need to figure out the safeties. But we can figure that out later on in the draft. Now, I will say this before I get into, the goods and bads of Derek Stingley Jr. Now, Mel Kiper Jr. did say that the number 8th pick was the hardest pick for him to make for the Falcons. 1, probably because we need a whole bunch of shit. And then 2, with all the good players there, where would the Falcons go? Because we need a whole bunch of G's. So I will say that. Also, Mel Kiper did say that he would have had David Ojabo from the Michigan Wolverines. We know the Georgia Bulldogs played them in the college football playoff and saw Mr. David up close and personal. He would have had him going to the Falcons, David Ojabo that is, but he was taken in Mel Kiper's mock draft 1.0 by the New York Giants right at number 7. So the Giants swept up David Ojabo, the pass rusher, right under our feet. And I would like David Ojabo as well, because I do think we need to go pass rusher 8th overall. So if David Ojabo is there in real life when it comes April, in time for the NFL draft and for us to make the real 8th overall pick, David Ojabo is there. I think we do grab him because pass rusher right now to me is more important than corner. But in this one, we're taking the corner. So let's talk about the corner Derek Stingley Jr. So he had a very, very, very good freshman campaign, really when he broke out onto the scene on that 2019 LSU National Championship team with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and all the people that went into the NFL off of that team. So in 2019, as a true freshman, he played in 15 games, had 31 solo tackles, 7 assisted for 38 total tackles, 1 tackle for loss, no sacks, but obviously because he's a corner, you don't expect him to sack much. He did have 6 interceptions, which led the team along with 15 pass deflections. Ooh, that sounds good. Just reading it. And he also had a fumble recovery, so there you go as well. So very, very good freshman campaign. However, due to injuries and all the coaching changes and a lot of turmoil that was going on the last 2 seasons at LSU, his 2020 and 2021 numbers are not very good at all. He was also dealing with injuries, especially last year in 2021, only playing 3 games due to a foot injury, but we'll get into that in a second. 2020, he played 7 games, had 19 solo tackles, 8 assisted for 27 tackles overall, 2.5 tackles for loss, 5 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, no interceptions. And in 2021, as I alluded to, only 3 games, 6 solo tackles, 2 assisted for 8 total, 3.5 tackles for loss, so at least the tackles for loss went up every year, 0 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble. So you see the numbers obviously take a drastic dip because he played less and less his sophomore and junior seasons. Like I said, he was a little bit inconsistent. Maybe his head wasn't all the way right because of what all was going on at LSU, and of course the injuries as well. So that's one thing we're gonna get into in the things to look out for and things he needs to improve on is his inconsistency, where his head is at, and him and his kind of competitive toughness, and him just making sure that he don't get lazy or bored or anything like that when he gets to the NFL level, because we ain't playing that. But first, let's get into the good of Derek Stingley Jr. So we're gonna go over a couple of categories here in this video. Obviously, as a corner, your coverage and how you cover is all but important because you're a corner, and that's what you do. You cover the wide receivers. So we're gonna go over his man coverage, his zone coverage. We're also gonna go over his ball skills, how he tackles, because we still want you to be able to tackle if you got to. So we're gonna go over his tackling in the open field and how he tackles and plays the run. We're gonna talk about his versatility, his athleticism, his football IQ, and then we'll finish off with what he needs to work on and just how we feel about Derek Stingley Jr. overall. So let's start with his man coverage. First and foremost, he is a technician. He's able to mirror wide receivers off the line of scrimmage. He's patient, shoots his hand, and keeps his feet fast and active. He has great eye discipline, so he's keeping them eyes on that wide receiver mix section, because you don't want to look a wide receiver in the eye. You want to look them in that midsection, kind of like when you're guarding a basketball player. You're supposed to look at their hips in their midsection so you can see where those hips are moving, and you can move right along with them in the same direction. So he has great eye discipline, doesn't move his eyes along the rock, stays locked in on that wide receiver's midsection, and like I said, he shoots his hands, puts his hands on the opposing wide receivers, and he keeps his feet active. One thing that these wide receivers do when they go back and look for the ball, when they're tracking the ball when it's up in the air, like on a deep route, they slow their feet down. They tend to slow down. It's just a natural thing. When you're looking for the ball and your brain is trying to do 2 things at once, run and look for the ball, you just naturally slow down. Well, he's good at keeping his feet moving, and he has great recovery speed, which we'll get into as well. But he has good lateral quickness to keep his leverage and his cushion so he don't get burnt by no wide receivers in the first place. And he's at his best in press coverage. But just in case he does get blown by a wide receiver or he is caught out of position, he has great recovery speed as well. So most of the time he's going to be in position, and his speed is going to keep him right there with an opposing wide receiver on a deep route. But if he does get caught out of position, he goes run right back up to that wide receiver, catch up to him, and use that great recovery speed to still make a play. Now, he isn't super physical, but he is going to put his hand on some jokers, like I was saying, and that's going to help him feel and anticipate break points down the field. So when a wide receiver is about to hit their breakdown or stop in their route and make the move in the route, make a cut, he got his hands on them so he can feel that and move right along with them. Along with that great eye discipline, watch their hips, and he's got obviously a very good hip swivel and hip movement to make that cut with them and make a play, either make an interception or get another pass deflection. So that's his man coverage. Very good. Like I said, great speed in general to keep up with wide receivers, but if he does get caught out of position, he's got great recovery speed as well. So let's move on to his zone coverage, where he has great instincts. He trusts his eyes, and that allows him to properly read the quarterback and intercept passes. He's a smart player that understands route concepts, so he knows what it looks like if a wide receiver is about to break down into a curl route. He sees it if a wide receiver is just, trying to fool him with a stop and go. He sees it if a wide receiver is going into a deep corner route or a fade route or a back shoulder throw or something like that. So he's very good and has a great football IQ, which we'll get more into later. He understands what wide receivers are trying to do, and he knows what that looks like. Again, he is very smart, and he is good at reading the quarterback's eyes when it comes to playing zone and playing off. He reads the quarterback's eyes very well. That way he can jump routes, kind of bait the quarterback into making a throw that the quarterback thinks is there. But then when he thinks it's there, Derek Stingley Jr. is like, I got you. And he jumps the route, makes a good play. Hopefully put some pick sixes for the Falcons if we do draft him. Also, he is very good at keeping leverage on wide receivers that are trying to stem and attack his leverage, so he doesn't let none of that happen. He has very good vision and anticipation. Like I said, baiting quarterbacks, he's very good at that. He also, a very, very important thing when it comes to zone coverage and cornerbacks, he protects the sticks. Because when you play off, a lot of times it's easy for a wide receiver to just run up to the sticks, maybe run a little bit past the sticks, hit a corner with a curl route, they come back to the football a little bit and they make the play. But not Derek Stingley Jr. With those instincts and the way he reads the quarterback's eyes, he is right there on the wide receiver if he tries to make the curl route, and he protects the sticks, and he doesn't waste his steps in transition out of his back pedal. He displays an explosive burst to close the gap and get that arm in there, knock that thing away if the quarterback is trying to complete that curl route. So that's his zone coverage. Let's move on to his ball skills. He intercepts the ball at a very high level, which is good. So Dallas, y'all can have Trevon Diggs, because guess what? Derek Stingley Jr. ain't going to allow 1,000 yards. He ain't going to allow 100 receptions on him. But he's still going to get all the interceptions. So he intercepts the ball at a high level. He wins most of those 50-50 balls. So you can't just throw it up to a Amari Cooper or a CeeDee Lamb or a whoever, or Julio Jones if we're playing the Tennessee Titans. You can't just throw it up to any big old wide receiver. At his 6'1", 195-pound height, he wins most of those 50-50 balls thrown his way. He can track the deep ball very well and turn into a wide receiver. So you going to think your wide receiver tracking it, but really it's Derek Stingley Jr. tracking that ball, running that thing down. He going to catch it over the shoulder. Great patience with the ball in the air so he doesn't panic if he sees the ball is coming his way. He has elite ball skills. Now, all that's great, but how is he when he got to get down to 30? When he got to start making some tackles and play the run? He's a very good tackler. He uses different tackling techniques. Like I said, uses that 200-pound frame to get in the way. And he's a very efficient tackler. He ain't scared of no contact. He ain't afraid to get his nose dirty. He'll stick his helmet in there. And, not his helmet, because that's not the proper way to tackle. Stick his shoulder pads in there and look at what he's tackling so he don't get any head-to-head penalties. So throw his shoulder in there. He's not afraid of contact. He's a reliable run defender, so that is good. He has good quickness and the ability to slip off blocks. And with his physicality, he'll put his hands on a wide receiver, but he's also good at shedding that tackle or shedding that block and making the play, getting the tackle on the running back. So he's got good block destruction, and he, like I said, uses those hands to shed the block and get to that running back very quickly, use that speed, and he's a very good open field tackler. And like I was saying in the stats, he gets a lot of tackles for loss. Every year at LSU, his tackles for loss went up. He got 1 in 2019, 2.5 in 2020, and 3.5 in 2021. So that's obviously something he improved on, open field tackling and just making plays in the backfield in general. So that's his tackling. How about his versatility? Where can he play as a DB? Well, he can play some nickel corner. He can also play some safety. He has that quick twitch that would allow him to be an effective nickel corner. He can follow wide receivers all over the field, so it don't matter where the wide receiver is at. He can follow them to the far side, to the near side. It don't matter. He gonna follow you. And he gonna give you AG double hockey stick all Sunday or Monday or Thursday or Saturday long. You know football almost on every day of the week. But either way it goes, if you're going up against Derek Stingley Jr. as a wide receiver, you got a long day ahead of you, buddy boy. He can play multiple positions as a DB. So if we need him to play nickel in a pinch, he can do it. Shoot, if we even got to throw him as safety in a pinch, hopefully we want to do that. But he can do it if called upon. So he's very versatile. Let's talk about his athleticism a little bit. He's a prototype cornerback. He's got that prototype cornerback build at 6'1", 195. He's got rare athletic traits like we talked about. He got that twitch, that explosiveness, that speed to, not only stay in front of wide receivers, keep that leverage, keep that cushion, but if a wide receiver does get past him, he's got great recovery speed as well. He's got the ball skills. He's got the length. He's got the body. He's got the athleticism. But what is he doing up here? How is he thinking up here? His football IQ, let's move on to that next. He, like I said earlier, recognizes routes very well, read and reacts in zone coverage, reads the quarterback's eyes, see what they're doing in zone coverage, finds the hole, then go makes the play. He takes calculated risks that usually result in turnovers for the defense. So that's a good thing. If you go back and watch the 2019 SEC Championship when they were playing Alabama, he did struggle a little bit in the first half, but went in the locker room, said, "Coach, I got us. I'm going to make some adjustments. We're going to do the dang thing." He came out and got picked in the second half off making those adjustments. So he knows what he's doing up here. He understands the game of football and uses football IQ to make adjustments and make plays. We love to see it. Now, all that's good and well, but he does have things, just like any raw talent from college coming over to the NFL game. It's a different game. He does have things to work on. He can get shielded in the run at times, and he does struggle against bigger backs when it comes to physicality and tackling. So he just need to get a little bit stronger. He might be making a little bit of business decisions when he's going up against a big dude like a Derrick Henry or something like that. But we can't have that. He got to get in there no matter what if you want to be a Falcon, Derrick. So get in the weight room, get stronger. I don't have any problem with that. I think he'll be okay doing that. And he'll get better against bigger backs. He just needs to get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. That's all right. Also, this is the big thing. Occasionally, he gets lazy or bored and allows other defenders to make tackles or plays on the ball. Now, we can't have none of that. If you're going to get lazy or bored, you're going to have to get drafted by somebody else, because we ain't trying to have all that. We ain't trying to do all that. You better be locked in. You got to be focused. You got to be sharp no matter what. So that's the one thing that I would be most concerned about when it comes to drafting Derek Stingley Jr. He's going to have to be locked in. Like I said, I know he went through those, weird years at LSU in 2020 and 2021. He had the injuries and all that stuff. But his mind got to be in the right place if we're going to draft him. I have no doubt Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot are going to make sure his head is in the right place and he has the correct mindset if the Falcons are going to draft him. So, so Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith, if they do talk to him, which I'm sure they will talk to him because he will be in that area for where we're going to draft him, they will talk to him and find out if he is the right dude to be an Atlanta Falcon, because it's going to get hard, Derek. It's going to get hard in the NFL. Arthur Smith, he don't put up with no nonsense. He ain't like Dan Quinn. No shade to Dan Quinn. He ain't going to hold your hand if you mess up. He going to let you know, hey, you got to do better and be better or you're not going to play, period. So that's one thing that Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot have to work out, but I believe they will. Also, this is another big thing, his durability. He has had some injuries. He did have a foot procedure this summer. He only was allowed to play he only played 3 games in 2021 because of his foot injury. He had to get a foot procedure, so he sat out most of 2021. So we all know, say it with me, the best ability is durability and availability. So if he don't got availability, well, I don't know how good he is. So he's going to have to be available, and hopefully if we do draft him, he can be available and he doesn't have to deal with any more injuries or anything huge or major, because people get dinged up here and there. But for the most part, hopefully he is durable if we do draft him. But that's the scouting report on Mr. Derek Stingley Jr. at LSU. Like I said, he has been compared to Marshawn Lattimore by Daniel Jeremiah, and the Draft Network has compared him to Stephon Gilmore. 2 great players. Overall, I think he will be a very good pro. If he is the best available defensive player when it comes to when we get to number 8 and the Falcons are on the clock, the Falcons should draft him because there's nothing wrong with having another short down corner next to A.J. Terrell. A.J. Terrell, Derek Stingley Jr., and Isaiah Oliver as your 3 corners, I would love it. No complaints. However, if a David Ojabo is there, or, if somehow on God's green earth, Kayvon Thibodeaux falls to us, then you got to take them because we need pass rusher first, in my opinion. But if Derek Stingley Jr. is there, take him. Point blank, period. Great ball skills, athleticism. He's got the build. He's got the height. He's got the weight. Got the speed. All that. All the tools are there. Hopefully he's just right up here when it comes to his mindset, which I believe he probably is. And hopefully he can stay healthy. But guys, that's who Mel Kiper has the Atlanta Falcons going to in his NFL mock draft 1.0. At number 8, we're selecting Derek Stingley Jr., the cornerback from LSU. Like I said, Pro Football Focus has him as, I think, the number 4 overall player. Like the number 4 overall best player in the NFL draft and the number 1 corner. That's according to Pro Football Focus. And according to Daniel Jeremiah, he has him as the 2nd best corner in the draft. So he's a good player. He's good. He fine. He good with it. We'll see if he falls to us first and foremost, because there were some talks about him going number 1 overall. Don't know if that's going to change or happen, but we'll see. But if we get Derek Stingley Jr., I will have no complaints about that whatsoever. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like this video, comment your thoughts, subscribe to the channel. Check out the first link in my description box to buy me a coffee to help fuel this channel, help fuel the Atlanta Falcons to a great draft. Check out the second link in my description box to subscribe to the Tough Calls podcast. Until I talk to you guys next time, stay true to Atlanta, believe in Atlanta, go Falcons, peace.